Well, rainy days have been really scarce, as we all know, in central Ohio this summer, and we are hardly alone when it comes to parched fields and gardens.
That's right. About 60% of the country is considered to be in a drought right now, covering part of every state except New Hampshire and Maine. Meteorologist Ben Gelber has been tracking our developing drought conditions, and he joins us now with more. Ben?
Boy, Captain Colleen, what's really amazing is that we are talking about a drought after dealing with flooding just last year, which happened to be our wettest year on record. The rain totals have been decreasing pretty much every month. We had a normal April, but we're now running deficits of about 4 to 5 inches. Central and northern Ohio are in a moderate drought, even severe drought in the northwestern part of the state. And all this obviously has farmers concerned about the quality of this year's crops.
You know, this year is shaping up a lot like 1988, and we had a devastating year that year. We have a lot of technology today we didn't have back then, that we have bigger roots and better stress tolerance, but we still have to have water. Because if you have excessive heat, you won't pollinate.
Historic warm weather in March allowed farmers to start planting weeks ahead of schedule. But now corn is pollinating under extremely hot and dry conditions and nights that are too warm, reducing the number of kernels.
The pollen comes from this part here and gets down to the silks, and that's what determines the size of the ear. These particular silks have to be pollinated.
Larry Wolpert's great-grandfather, John, bought farmland in Hilliard back in 1898 near an old train station that sat close to present-day Hilliard-Davidson High School.
This year, the farmers in central Ohio, they got a double whammy. And Grandpa never saw this exception where you had this extremely high temperatures of 100+ degrees in addition to the lack of rain.
With a smaller than normal crop expected, corn prices have already risen 5%. That means we could soon pay more for hundreds of products that use corn, from feed to fuel and food. Nationwide, farmers planned ahead and planted 5% more corn this year than last year.
Technology, Ben, has changed farming dramatically when it comes to yields. If we would have had this drought in 1950, when the average yield was probably about 50 bushels per acre for corn, it would have been devastating.
But even with genetically modified corn, advanced fertilizers, and farming techniques, corn still needs rain, specifically an inch of water every week to offset high evaporation.
Ben, unfortunately, we're at the mercy of the weather. Most of the corn grown in Ohio is without irrigation. So we have to have all the risk management tools possible so we can farm another day.
And farmers are closely following the progress of the Farm Bill that just passed very early this morning. The House Agricultural Committee passed that. That would provide a new crop insurance for disasters and price support programs, of course, still to be debated in the full House. And today, the Department of Agriculture declared natural disaster areas in more than 1,000 counties in 26 drought-stricken states, giving farmers and ranchers access to federal aid. Colleen and Cabot.
Boy, we look at that corn, and you know that there's just no way that can come back, it looked like.
It's going to be tough. And, you know, Jim and I have been talking about at least some rain chances, but they've said this critical juncture, it's not quite now or never, but it's really looking
getting
difficult.
close. And last year, with all that rain, it took them forever to get in the fields, and yet with all that rain, they had enough in the ground to be able to bring a great crop last year at the end of the day.
And Cabin Colleen, that is probably saving us up to this point because the roots are still down into some of the subsoil moisture from last year's excessive rains.
It's amazing, and
so
we're hoping that this weekend they get that little push that
I know,
they
but
need.
always
So
expect
spotty.
less than you think is going to happen, and it's kind of a pattern. A live, tight